Alrighty, folks. Good morning. Well, it's morning here at least. Wanted to come to you guys on this morning of the release. So, as of the time of publishing this video, this update will already be live. But wanted to keep you guys caught up on what's going on here with update version 1.0.2. You've probably already seen some other content creators like Obey the Papaya and some others that will release these update summary type videos right when the patch notes come out, which is going to be multiple days before they actually go live. So wanted to make one for you guys and put it out there basically right when it goes live, just to keep everyone in the loop, because I know that if you're not looking for those videos from those guys, or you're checking the predecessor homepage recently, or following them on Twitter or anything, then it's easy to miss some of these updates. And this one is a small one, but it has some interesting meta shifting balance implications, so we'll go through it as quick as we can here and give you guys the lowdown on what's going on. First off, I want to say I really like this whole version 1.0.2, and I like how they hit us with the preface here that version 1.1 is a couple weeks away, but they wanted to get out this little balance shifter here. I mean, I think this is a really good sign for. They also say 1.1 is bringing in that new hero, another original hero, which joins the ranks of Argus, Zarus, and Kira, which is interesting. We'll see how that new hero ends up coming out, but I want to say this is a really good sign from Ometa Studios. The fact that they know 1.1 is just a couple weeks away, but they're willing to kind of walk the line between how frequent is too frequent for updates, and also, how infrequent is, too big of a gap between the updates. So they know that there's things going on in the meta that they want to balance around, but they don't want to wait too long. At the same time, they didn't drop this, the day after 1.0 came out or anything like that, or it's actually been, about 2 weeks, or it'll be a little over 2 weeks by the time it actually hits. So good. I like the balance that they've got here between how frequent the updates are. So that's the first thing that I think this patch really implicates. But we'll go through here. We're going to talk about the hero balance changes. We're going to talk about the item balance changes. If you're interested in just the item changes, which are very minor, to be honest with you, you can go ahead and skip straight to that timestamp. But we're going to go through it as quick as we can. Thanks for hopping on and checking it out. I'm glad I could help keep you guys in the loop. So let's get started here. First off, we've got some skins. I'm not a skins guy, but I actually do like this selection of skins. They all seem pretty cool. They got the Doomsday Steel, the Clockwork Revenant is actually a pretty cool one. Phase is a really minor one, and same thing with the Morgesh. But either way, cool skins. That's not what we're here for. All of them will be way overpriced, and I'm not going to buy any of them, but hero balance changes. So here's what we're really here for, because the item changes are pretty minor. First off, we've got Argus. Argus has been too strong. He received a buff at the last patch, in the 1.0 patch. That was really not warranted. There was no reason for him to get that buff. He was already strong. So they're tuning him down a little bit less health. And the stun is getting less damage and a smaller radius, so that's cool. And I especially like this quality of life. The explosion effects are 30% smaller to match its hitbox, but the radius only decreased 10%. So you see the effects were too big in the first place. It also is getting a second longer cooldown, so great, and reduced scaling on his ultimate. So great. He needed a nerf. This will probably bring him more in line. And because that stun is really annoying when people are good at hitting that long range stun. It'll make it a little bit harder. Aurora, she feels somewhat more balanced after the last nerfs that she got, but at the same time she's still banned or played in almost every single gold ranked game. So she got some adjustments where the ice wall, her teammates gain more movement speed when they walk across it, which is interesting. It's only 5%, but that's interesting. Why not? Add some more utility to it. And then the Boreal Sweep, the little throwing out the ice blast, got a decreased cooldown which is interesting. I guess it's a same at the beginning, but a second shorter at the end of the game, and reduced damage, again, same at the beginning and less at the end of the game by 20. So, why not? She's too strong, but I do like the kind of utility combination with a slight nerf to her damage, because it can be frustrating playing against her when she's out of hand. Decker's getting a movement speed decrease. Great, who cares? Drongo, rad rounds, damage decrease, very slight, but and not at the beginning of the game, so we'll see if that is even noticeable. Old Rusty damage decrease probably is noticeable, 5 damage across all ranks, and that's multiplied by 2 because it hits twice. So, Drongo is one of the stronger carries right now, but I feel like most of the carries are kind of balanced, so he probably did deserve this nerf, just because, like they said, his trading strength, in lane is just too hard to really deal with. He's going to win trades with that Old Rusty, and if he turns on rad rounds, he can blast you. Now, Feng Mao, a kind of series of nerfs here, which Feng Mao has been very strong since the 1.0 patch, so this is understandable. Windwalker, power scaling reduced. This is the shield. This is the shield and the movement speed combo. So Windwalker, you see it says primary, and then also Guardian Shield is primary, I think is what they mean here. Power scaling reduction on the shield is reduced, or the physical, the shield size being reduced, and then the movement speed scaling off of physical pin also being reduced. So a little bit weaker shield and movement speed ability, and then the Reaping Dash damage decrease. You're not really using the Reaping Dash much for damage purposes. You're really using it for mobility purposes, and it's only a 10 damage nerf. So I think Feng Mao doesn't really get hit too hard there. Still pretty decent. Gideon. Now, I'm happy to see Gideon getting some attention, because he was once stronger, and then they did all these nerfs, and I don't like how they nerfed his ultimate, because his ultimate is not hard to use, but the way it was before was better. Let's be honest. We can all be honest. It was better before, when there wasn't a half-second delay before the suction effect started happening. They did. I get that they made the suction weaker or whatever. That's cool that you can drop the damage if you want, but don't give us a half-second delay before the suction starts happening. It's not cool. It was better the way it was. Anyway, what they've done is just given him quicker cooldown on the Cosmic Rift, and then they've shifted the cooldown around on his teleport so that it is 2 seconds shorter at the end of the game, but 2 seconds longer at the beginning of the game. So gives you more incentive to level it, I guess, but and he may have a little bit more consistent clear with his Cosmic Rift being up a second faster each time, but not a huge change. A lot of these are pretty small changes. Grux, interesting to see Grux getting some attention, because I feel like he was in an okay space where he's good against teams that don't know how to counter him, or that don't have hard CC, but then he kind of falls off late game. So what they've done is given him more armor growth by a little bit. This will be a very small change in his armor by the end of the game. And then Smash and Grab, they actually reduced the cooldowns by a second, which is, interesting. And then same thing with Crunch, the little dash ability. Shorter cooldowns. It's actually the same at the beginning of the game, and then it is a second shorter at the end of the game. So we'll see. I mean, none of this is all good for him. So, and I think he was already in a decent place, but I don't think this rockets him up into some sort of crazy strength level. Howitzer. Howitzer is one of the ones that's receiving a kind of more major shifts, because he's getting damage reduction on his missile by just 5 flat and then 5 scaling. So that probably will add up to a lot, because you're going to have 400, 500, 600 power at the end of the game. So that is a significant reduction late game in his in this R2000 missile. Then his landmine got a damage reduction as well. You're not really using it for damage in the first place, so that is not important. But his Make It Rain ultimate got a nice damage increase of, well, it's same at level 1, but at max level of 4 extra damage per missile, so that actually adds up to a pretty big chunk here. You see 928 now instead of 864, so before scaling. That's good because that gives you the potential after scaling to drop 1200 damage on somebody, even after their pin and armor and everything, so I like that. I like the change. His ultimate did feel sometimes weak, but the fact that it's the same at the early game and then they only buffed it for late game is not really it's not really necessary, because late game his ultimate's already hitting like a truck anyway because he has his pin and his damage online. So Quang is receiving some shifts to particularly to his Light of the Heavens for trading purposes with the shield. First off, Strike of the Heavens. This is his passive, is getting a little bit of damage decrease at the beginning of the game, just 2 less damage at the beginning of the game, so that's not enough to matter. Judgment of the Heavens, the Sword Throw is getting a reduction in cooldown at the late game by a second, same at the beginning of the game, and mana cost decrease. Why not? You know, if you're good with the Sword Throw, you're using the Sword Throw as much as you can, so make it shorter. Light of the Heavens, that's the one I was talking about, the lightning bolt that strikes down and gives him the shield. So held damage decrease. So this is when he's holding it, not when it's tethering somebody down. Held damage decrease by 5 across the board. Why not? That's not the most important part. The most important part is the shield reduction. So this is the ability that really made Quang strong in lane, or felt strong in lane, because he could just run to the middle of the minions, catch the minion wave and the enemy with the lightning damage, and then also get that shield, so when the enemy starts hitting them back to do the trade, they mitigate some of that damage. So taking 15 shield off of it at all ranks is pretty good. That's way more impactful at level 1, obviously only getting 50 shield versus 65. It just means that when you go in for that trade, 15% less damage is taken off the top of your shield, so you're able to mitigate less, and you should be spamming this, so that 15 each time is going to add up. And then his ultimate got a damage increase just at rank 1, really a little bit at rank 2, but it's the same at rank 3, so I think okay balance changes for Quang. He's still going to be strong. It's just the nature of his kit right now in the meta. Bellica, who cares? Honestly, why even read these buffs for Bellica? We know she's going to still be weak, unless you're just a crazy one-trick Bellica player, but Void Bomb, damage increased, woohoo, cooldown decreased by half a second, great. So she can spam out her Void Bomb, maybe it'll give her enough wave clear to actually do something, but I highly doubt it. Murdoch, Long Armor of the Law, 20-second longer cooldown at level 1. Same cooldown at level 3. Maybe this makes a difference if you're like a top-end Murdoch player and you're hitting your ult every time it's off cooldown, but in reality, it's still Murdoch. Muriel. This is probably the most important change of this entire patch, I would say. This one and the Fae one that you'll see. Muriel is getting a massive adjustment to these abilities. This is the speed up ability. The alternate, Alacrity, I don't know, and then Serenity, the slowdown damage one. So the slow is actually being changed from a flat 35% to a scaling 34% at first rank up to 50%, but the duration is being reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds. So this is interesting. I like this. It gives you incentive to level it, because it's that 50% slowdown is a heck of a lot, and the fact you could build Dreambinder on top of this and just basically stop someone from moving entirely when you hit them. I don't like the duration being nerfed at the same time. It's like, make up your mind, do you want it to be stronger or weaker? But good to see without any mana or cost changes. And then the speed up, the teammate speed up and shield ability is also getting a nice buff here, with the shield being increased by 10 across the board. The power scaling increasing as well, so if you've got some power, it's going to make the shield nice and big. plus the items that boost shield percentage will make it much bigger. But the movement speed is getting buffed from 20 to 25, so that's good. You'll notice it a lot more. 20% was not very strong, and if you combo this with Wind Caller, it's going to give them quite a big speed up with the mana cost reduction to go with it, and a significant cooldown reduction of 2 seconds at rank 1. So this is really nice. This is, especially with the movement speed being just changed to a flat versus the slow being changed to leveling, it means that you can just take this level 1 and never have to upgrade it, build your Wind Caller, and throw a huge movement speed buff onto a teammate while you focus on leveling up your poke and clear and damage and slowdown ability in the Serenity. So I expect Muriel to be a lot better. I'm excited to try her out some after the patch because I am a fan of Muriel. I like what she can offer, but it is hard to play her sometimes. Phase, kind of just an odd selection of changes here. Physical power increase and physical power growth to kind of give her more auto attack damage. I don't know why that's something that we're prioritizing, but there it is. Healing magical power scaling up 5%, so yeah, I mean, get a little bit more healing. Energy Lance power scaling increased actually by 10%, which is pretty strong because Energy Lance is already a pretty strong ability, and then the Hyperflux decaying movement speed increased by 5% as well. So I get FaZe has been kind of struggling, not because she is weak in any way, but because of how strong some of the other range supports are right now. So we'll see if this brings her more in line with them. If you're a good FaZe player, you're very happy to see this. This is just nice buffs across the board for her, so she probably does become pretty strong or more frequently used, I would think. Rampage Rumble, damage decrease. Oh no, we made Rampage too strong. Let's nerf him by 5 damage. Whatever, still Rampage. You're not using him to do damage, you're using him to be an unkillable tank. So Richter, this was an interesting one because I think Richter is very strong, so buffing him in any way is kind of odd. Electrocute, this is the one where the lightning strikes the ground around him. It's basically like having a free Fire Blossom. Gets bonus health scaling, just goes up from 9 to 10%, and the cooldown gets cut by a second across all ranks. So this is already a really strong ability because it gives him movement speed at the same time. So Richter even stronger now than he already was. He's quite strong. Having his movement speed up more often is really nice. Sereth has been kind of left behind. She doesn't have the hard CC and stuff like that. And she's more of like sweeps lower ranked players than anything else, but she is very safe. Gets some small changes with a mana increase. This mana increase is actually pretty significant, like volume of mana. It's just, I'm not a big Sereth player. I don't know how mana hungry she generally tends to be, but 15 extra mana to start the game and then 5 extra mana per level up is pretty good. I think that's a sizable chunk of mana by the end of the game. And then Heaven's Fury, the primary, the little wing beat blaster damage increase from 10 at all ranks. So it's good to put her at a little bit better spot. Shinbi, I think Shinbi is pretty good, but she doesn't really have a place in the meta without CC. So good to see her get some buffs here. Circular Rhythm, when the wolves run around her, damage scaling increase from 20 to 28. An odd number selection there, but cool. And then the shield increase from 50 to 55. So again, cool. This is going to be one of her stronger abilities now in the late game when you've got a lot of power built. And then Rushing Beat, the little dash ability of hers, gets 10 extra damage across ranks, which is good because you can hit it twice. So this is effectively 20 extra damage. At rank 1, that can be a significant amount. You're talking 120 versus 100. So cool to see. Sevrog, of course they couldn't leave Sevrog alone for 10 seconds when he becomes decent in the meta. Colossal Blow, damage decreased by 40 at rank 3. So why? Why are we doing this? Magical power scaling increased. So I guess this is to incentivize people not building 6 armor items, but you probably should still be building 6 armor items or health items on Sevrog, so whatever. Interesting change. Terra, for the, what is it now, the 4th, 5th patch in a row, every single patch since she's been released, she's been nerfed. This just shows you how willing to release overtuned heroes they are and then cut them back rather than release heroes that are too weak. Ruthless Assault, the true damage decrease on the 3rd hit when you have it empowered is being reduced by the none at rank 1, but then 20 at rank 3, so whatever, it's 20 extra damage at the end of the game isn't the end of the world, as long at least they didn't nerf it at level 1. Wild Rush, shield max health scaling reduced from 14 to 12. Okay, just keep tuning her back. Just keep tuning her back. Unstoppable Force, bonus armor reduced by 2 at all ranks. Keep tuning her back. We know we're going to release her too strong. Let's tune her back. Whatever. Terra's got a nerf every patch for the last 4 or 5. Now she may actually be in line with some of the other solo laners. She still does a lot for your team. I still like her, but this probably does make her just slightly weaker, just like every nerf, slightly weaker. The Fae. This is the other one that I was talking about, along with the Muriel patch that actually has a pretty big impact, I feel like. I'm a big Fae player too, so this is kind of relevant to me. General. Physical armor increase at level 1 and mana decrease at level 1, so, kind of odd, very small changes, but interesting. Her passive, this is when she gets a takedown, either a kill or an assist. She gets that movement speed boost. So now that movement speed is being increased from 15 to 30%, and then the duration is cut down to 3 seconds. So I'm not really sure why this was, I guess they want you to be able to get a takedown and then burst towards, a sharper burst of speed when she secures a takedown. Dive into the fight more. You don't need to be diving into the fight as Faye. This isn't Gideon. You need to be positioning yourself around your team. But whatever. Brambles patch, cooldown decreased, which is awesome. 2 seconds at rank 1 for Brambles patch is a sick buff. Slow changed from 40% flat to scaling up to 50%, which is pretty cool because I usually level this one anyway. And then the mana cost is also decreasing from 60 to 70 to 80 and then up to 100 to only up to 60 to 80. So even more incentive for this to be the first ability that you level if you want that on-demand clear and poke ability, and huge slow, now 50% slow at max rank. So on an 8-second cooldown, it's crazy. I guess it was already on an 8-second cooldown, so it's just it's crazy buffing it in the early game and reducing the mana cost and giving it a huge slow at the end game. Brambles patch is a heck of an ability anyway, so. Now, Harvest Nettles, this is the one where you throw out the little auto attack stem burst. It'll be interesting to see how this actually feels. Damage has been changed, just 5 less at the beginning, and then scaling up to 15 more. So better flat damage with less scaling. And then the damage amplification stacks have been changed from 25 to 20. But the duration that you can snack it has gone up from 6 to 8, and then the max stacks is now 4. So if you get up to 4 stacks, it's going to do the same amount. Or if you get up to 4 stacks now, it'll be 80%, whereas before you get 3 stacks at 25% would be 75%. So pretty similar on the damage stacking. Cost decrease is nice. Mana refund decrease to go with it, I guess, is due, but it says quality of life, projectile cast time, and responsiveness improved. So this is pretty vague, but we'll see how this ends up actually feeling. Harvest Nettles is a interesting and strong poke ability as far as mid laners go. It also helps you burn down objectives fast and can help you kill tanks fast in a fight that's going on for more than a couple seconds. So expect that to be pretty strong. Untamed Growth, the little flower, cooldown increased, so yeah, you've got even more incentive to just use Brambles patch over it. And then the Fly Trap ultimate, magical power scaling increased by 5, which is cool because it doesn't really do that much damage, but you're not using it for the damage. You're using it for the massive CC burst. So big adjustments to Faye. We'll play her a lot right after the patch and see how this feels. It should be really nice. I'm looking forward to the Brambles patch buffs for sure. Twin Blast, Overdrive, attack speed increased from 35 to 40%. So this is his passive. When he uses an ability, he gets extra attack speed. That's cool. I already thought Twin Blast was pretty strong, so the fact that they're doing that, as well as damage per bullet increase on his ultimate by 2 at rank 1, that's interesting. Like, he already has a strong early game, so giving him an even stronger early game, why not? And then finally, Zinx. Who would have guessed they release a hero that's overtuned and then nerf her back? It's not like we just read the 4th Terra nerf in a row. But mana decrease at rank 1, mana regen decreased by a pretty significant amount, and mana growth decreased, or mana growth increased by just a very slight amount. So adjusting her mana around a little bit. Her passive, when she gets the speed up, when she hits people, bonus infused healing decreased from 50 to 40%. So that's not really important. Usually when you procced her passive, you were diving on enemies, not looking for the bonus healing. So bad medicine cost decrease. Okay, whatever. Infuse, magical healing power scaling reduced by 5%. So a little bit less healing power coming out. And then here's a decent one. The ultimate getting changed from 4.5 to 4 seconds. So offering more ability to play against her, just some really slight nerfs across the board that shouldn't affect her too much, I wouldn't think. I mean, I think they just don't want to do it all at once. I think these are probably closer to the numbers that everything should be at, but I think they know they're going to probably have to nerf her again because unless this half a second on the revive makes a big difference, I don't see anything else in here that really, takes Zinx out of the meta. So that's going to do it for the hero changes. The only big highlights are again the Fae getting a major adjustment to the way the Brambles patch gets movement speed scaling, or slow scaling I should say, and then just kind of some general buffs to the rest of her kit and her passive. And then same thing with Muriel, where her slow is now getting a scaling increased in slow, and her teammate speed up is getting a nice buff. So that will be 2 to keep an eye on. The rest of them are pretty minor, and these item changes are pretty minor as well. So we'll go through them real quick and talk about what they look like. So item balance changes. Nuclear Rounds is the only carry item getting adjusted, and it is getting its ability haste bumped up to 20. So this is good because Nuclear Rounds really fell out of the meta when they nerfed it hard last time. Well, they didn't nerf it, but they changed it around, and it's just not as desirable. Assassin, Envy, this item's straight up broken. You know how it is on Fang Mao by now. Physical penetration reduced to 6. Sacrificial Strike duration decreased from 3 to 2.5 seconds. That doesn't really matter because right after you do the dash, you're going to hit him with an auto within either 2.5 seconds or 3 seconds or 1 second. You're going to hit him with an auto. So, and then the Hush Silence duration decreased from 1 second to 0.8. So maybe this brings it more in line with where it should be. It's just still a really strong ability when it procs. They made the cooldown a lot longer. So Infernum, Cinder max health damage increased from 3.5 to 4%. Still don't build Infernum, guys. This is like a absolute, like, you don't have any other way to deal damage and you just want to put Infernum in your kit, then build it, but it's not even close to as good as it was before. Malady, Parting Grit, damage decreased from 25 to 20%. Who cares? It doesn't affect anything but your clear speed, and Mind Razor already gives you better clear speed. So Mesmer, this is another one. I don't like this Mesmer, and then later you'll see the Spell Shield or Spell Breaker. Physical power increased by 5. Okay, thanks for the extra 5 power. And Vengeful Shroud cooldown increased from 45 to 60. So you'll see the same thing on the Spell Breaker magical ability that gives you the Spell Shield. We don't want you having a Spell Shield every 45 seconds. Bro, it's 45 seconds. why am I building the item if I'm only getting it every minute? Like, if it's 45 seconds, I can at least go into one fight, rotate around to the next lane, and get the shield back up. 60 seconds is a long time. I mean, you're looking at a situation where you're building Mesmer and or Spellbreaker, and you're probably only proccing that spell shield like 5 or 6 times in the fight, unless you build it super early game. But like by the end of the game, you're probably only proccing it 5 or 6 times. It's just not worth it. But you know, whatever. That's just my opinion. Maybe they were too strong, or maybe they were getting used too much in the meta, and they wanted to cut them back some. So. Basilisk, we're back into the fighter items here. The missing health damage increased from 3 to 3.5. So this is after you've already stacked up the first passive from it, where it reduces their armor. Once they're at max stacks and they're eroded, then your autos deal missing health damage. So this is missing health damage as well, so this is good. This is good. Missing health scaling, I think, can always be stronger and be appropriate. Bonesaw, Colossal Sunder bonus attack speed increase from 10 to 12%. Sure, why not? I think a lot of people, if your hero makes good use of Bonesaw, you're probably still building Bonesaw, regardless of if they nerf it, or I mean if they buff it, so why not make it a little bit stronger. Draconum physical armor increased from 35 to 40, not coming with any sort of nerf alongside of it, just a straight up physical armor increase is cool. There's some heroes that you're liking to build Draconum on, you keep building them on it, it'll be a little bit more effective for you. Earthshaker, same way. Taking the attack speed back up to 30. It was 30 before, they cut it down to 25. Take it back up. Take it back up. The heroes that you're building Earthshaker on, you'd like to have that extra free 5 attack speed, so... And then Legacy, here's a magical armor item that you're basically never building, but they gave it 5 extra magical armor, so right on. Maybe Legacy will get built sometimes now. Mage, Lifebinder, ability haste increase from 10 to 15, cool. I did think Lifebinder had a hard time finding builds that it could fit in very well, so giving a little bit more haste kind of makes it nice. Magnified, this was an interesting one because the magical armor shred increased from 15 to 20, so I really like that. I've often built it for not just the Omnivamp, but for the magical armor shred, so like if you're doing a big tank build on Quang or something and you don't want to build Caustica or a pin item, then this is a pin, this is a percent pin, effectively a percent pin item, so Magnify even more of a must build now. Same thing with Orb of Enlightenment. We get an increase in the health per level scaling from 12 to 15. Basically, this means at the end of the game, rather than it giving you around 470 health, it gives you around 520 or over 500 health. So, very strong item for when it gets stacked up. Definitely very usable on a lot of melee magical heroes, and maybe some other ones that are building World Breaker. And then here we go with the Spellbreaker. Even though the Mesmer got an extra 5 physical power to compensate for it, Spellbreaker doesn't get anything. Spellbreaker just gets, oh, sorry, 15-second longer cooldown on your Veil. Good luck. So, whatever. Interesting change. We'll see if it actually impacts anything. Support items, Dawnstar health increase. Dawnstar was a really weird one. Not a lot of supports are building it over its alternatives, so maybe it'll get built more. Lunaria, max health decrease, the max healing decrease, so I guess this is kind of a partial nerf to Zinx, because this Zinx was getting a lot of use out of this, and damage stored decrease as well. So then you got Marshall. Base mana regen decreased from 125 to 100. Again, a kind of partial nerf to Zinx since she's building this every single time. But this probably affects the new Muriel as well, keeping the Muriel from getting too strong. Tank, Elefrost, they did this to a couple items. They've done a health decrease from 400 to 350, and then a armor increase. So I guess they just don't like the massive health tanks. You know, same thing with Giant's Ring. health decreased to 300, armor increased to 50, so makes it more effective against the type of damage that you're building the item for, and less effective overall. Remnant of Renewal, again, health decreased to 650. Why are we doing that? I guess they just really don't like the super big health meta. And then Warden's Faith, Mocking Presence physical power reduction increased from 5 to 8%. This is like this is a really strong physical armor item now. I mean, even if they're only building one crit damage, like their carry is their only person building crit, this is probably still a must build on most tanks, because 8% reduction to the physical power of everyone on the enemy team is going to infect their jungler. It's going to affect their solo laner probably, and then it's definitely going to affect their carry, and having the crit mitigation is really nice to go with it. So yeah, 1.0.2 might be a lighter patch than our recent 1.0, but rest assured 1.1 is shaping up nicely. In fact, you're going to have a blast playing with the new hero. Get it? Because she's got a good big gun and she's a blast. Whatever. Good changes. I like the fact that they're willing to hop in here and do these hero balances in the kind of, medium break between 1.0 and 1.1. We'll see how they pan out. I look forward to playing on this patch. Like I said, as of release of this video, this patch is live. Look for Muriel and the Fae to be making some moves in the meta. Rest of them are kind of just general balance changes, kind of tightening everybody up a little bit. I like the Argus nerfs to his stun as well, because that stun was very infuriating. But that's going to do it for these balance changes, guys. Check out this this page if you want to read through all of this yourself. I'll link it down below. And look for this Friday, we're going to do an update to the tier list that we put out a couple weeks ago to kind of see how all of these changes actually make an effect. So we'll know by Friday. I will have played enough games by then, and we'll put out a update to the last 1.0 tier list, tier list specific to the 1.0.2, and we can have a conversation in those comments as well about how strong you think it made any of these heroes, or if it even made an impact, or if any of these item changes made an impact. I mean, I don't see a lot of them that look crazy, but we'll see if any of these end up stepping more into the meta. Magnify is for sure a more must build, and Spellbreaker and Mesmer are probably less must builds. Marshall and Lunaria nerfs hurt Zinx a little bit, and then the tank buff, the tank nerfs kind of, there's only a couple items here that got nerfed, and none of the magical armor items got nerfed, and they still give you the most health anyway, so we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, guys, and checking it out. I did end up making this longer than I wanted it to, but at least we get to put some nice helpful information out there for you, so we will see y'all in the next one.